What you've just seen are some of the techniques from the close quarter combat course I developed for Department of Defense Special Operations Forces. I'm Captain Jeffrey Prather from 7th Special Forces Group. I have 22 years martial arts experience, several black belts, including the 5th degree black belt in Togakureru Ninpo Taijutsu. My assistant instructor today is First Lieutenant Alex Mordine. He holds a 3rd degree black belt in Togakureru Ninpo Taijutsu. My demonstrators today are First Lieutenant Bob McLear, First Lieutenant Rob Esty, and Sergeant David Clifton. All are from the 2nd Ranger Battalion. All have actual combat experience. While the Corps was designed for the United States military special operations personnel, it's also popular with federal law enforcement and conventional military. It's popular because it's extremely simple and it's very, very effective. What makes this course unique is that it works off the physiological and psychological phenomena of stress that a body experiences in a combat survival situation. You get very strong when the adrenaline epinephrine starts flowing through your system. Your hands become crab-like. You lose a lot of manual dexterity. You get tunnel vision. Most systems of martial arts use very intricate maneuvers, fancy blocks. This system uses very natural body movement and interval to overcome a faster, stronger opponent, no matter what the terrain. You can't do high fancy kicks on a hillside with a 75-pound rucksack with a rifle in your hand in the middle of the night. But what you can do is use natural body movement and interval against an enemy. All the defender here had to do was bend over the ankle, lean the man down, come across up to the throat. He's got the muzzle of the weapon into the throat area. If he tries to raise his weapon up, he just lowers his weapon. If he wants to knock his fingers off, knock the other finger off here. Alright? He's got control. If he still is rising up, he can just drop his knee into the side of his left leg. No effort. Okay. The ankle kick is an example of minimal effort, natural body movement. By interval, I mean the perimeter distance for defensive movement that my comfortably bent arm and leg describe in a circle around me. With the leg, and again, I'm controlling with pressure on the knee, just slightly on the ankle.
Okay, go.
For simplicity's sake, following Murphy's Law in the fog of war, there are only 2 targets used in close quarter combat training. First is the neck, the second is the lower leg from the knee to the ankle. We're going to ignore the eyes because of helmets, glasses, and goggles. We're going to ignore any targets to the torso because of LCE, armor, and weapons. And it's also very hard to drop somebody in this torso. It's heavily protected by bone, a lot of flesh, big, tough, in-shape troops. We're also going to ignore the groin because, again, you have LCE in the way, you have body armor, and people in an adrenaline stress situation can fight through groin pain. We're going to ignore any type of pain compliance that is commonly used in law enforcement, and we're going right to mechanical compliance. That is, as Alex is leaning in, I'm hitting into his neck area. He's got no choice. He's got to go. There are only 2 stances in close quarter combat training. First defensive stance we're going to cover now. I'm in. Knees are slightly bent. Feet are slightly pointed out. It's a very natural position. Having a weapon at port arms, very normal, natural, because you're not going to have time, if you're attacked, or you're going to use close quarter combat, to move into any other kind of stance. We're going to start with weapons because it's most likely that you'll have a weapon and your magazine will be expended, you'll have no ammunition, or your weapon will be malfunctioning. That's the most likely scenario where you'll be using close quarter combat. You're certainly not going to use it to do any kind of assault or any kind of aggressive action. It's a last-ditch, zero-sum, I win or he wins situation. So, all I did was, as he steps in slowly, I just pivoted in. Leaned in. Taking him down. Knocking his fingers off the weapon there. Got control on a knee. Got control on a groin area, whatever. Alright, that's the first move. That's bayoneted rifle against rifle. Because we're always in a close quarter combat situation, we're going to assume that we're going to be weaker or more vulnerable than our enemy. Or we're not going to be using close quarter combat in the first place. Because it's a last-ditch defensive effort. That was a regular distance maneuver. All I did again was pivot in and lean in. That was medium distance. We're also going to show each of these techniques from a far distance and from a very close distance. From a far distance, done slowly, he's coming in, I see him, I step away this time, I pivot away, I see him ahead of time, I ride my muzzle up over his fingers violently, and naturally it'll drive into his bicep. From here, now that his body has dropped, his throat now is down from hitting him in here, I just raise this up into his throat area and walk forward and bring him down. Again, I've got control of the weapon. I can rise this up into his eyes. I can kneel on the weapon, knock his hands off. Alright, now we're going to do the close variation. That is, he really surprises me. He's rising up out of the bush. I don't have a lot of time to react. Comes in, my weapon is already past him. I'm not going to try and go back. I'm not going to have time to withdraw the weapon. I let it come past. I bring my forearm up to the crook of my elbow. I'm not going to try and use a lot of fingers because adrenaline flow is going to make them clumsy. They may be broken, cold, gloved, bloody, whatever. I'm going to bring this in the crook of my elbow, come behind his helmet, and all I've got to do is tighten in a little bit. I've got a lot of control on him with my body. But I'm still going to drop downward, sink downward as I drop into a neck break. He's tapping out right now. I've still got my balance, and then I just grip, stand up, walk forward, on over his throat, drive on. What we're talking about doing in a close quarter combat situation, in a last-ditch, zero-sum effort, where either I'm going to survive or he's going to survive, is using standard issue military equipment as improvised weaponry. Improvised weaponry can be broken down into three categories: edged, flexible, and rigid. M16, devoid of ammunition, would be an example of rigid weaponry. Sling rope or web belt would be an example of flexible weaponry. And of course a bayonet or knife would be an example of edged weaponry. Now we're moving down the line using the same stance, the same simple step-in technique with the most likely scenario, and that is that I've got my sidearm, but I've extended my ammunition. The opponent's coming in the same angle. Again, medium distance technique first at medium speed so you can see what's happening. He steps in, I step in, hit the weapon against the weapon, controlling it for an instant. I've got my knee against his knee so I can take him down and rise up into his throat. Done at the same time. No. I don't have a lot of time. I see him at the last minute. He comes in. Boom, I'm in past him. I'm probably hitting the fingers. I've got my arms up, not using my fingers, because again, in the combat situation, I'm not going to have time to use the fingers. I get my forearms up to take control. I've stepped in. I'm inside the cut of the bayonet or the line of fire of the weapon. Again, I don't try and come back. I rise up, striking into the neck or face area, grasp the weapon carefully with the other hand, not coming over the muzzle of the weapon, and take the edge of that weapon just gently into the neck slightly, and you see how he's reacting with just a little pressure. Drop down, stand up, drive on. Okay, same situation from far distance. I see him coming, I panic a little bit, I step back instead of in, which would be more ideal. I catch just the edge of the weapon. I ride up on the fingers, ride up into the bicep, then again I can ride up into the neck, hitting with that hammer of the weapon to control him. You can see, and drop it into the neck for mechanical compliance. Again, I've got... Alright, we're now into edged weaponry. We're using the common issue M9 bayonet. But again, for training purposes, do not train with live weapons. Same situation, same stance. Only thing that's changed is what you happen to have in your hands. And again, lunge comes in slowly, medium distance. I step into it. I'm right inside here. My knee's meeting his knee. If he's lunging in with effort, he's almost done everything for me, because as I step in, just with medium effort, he's already starting to go down. He's also leaning his throat right into what I need to do next. The more I hit hard, see that just happening? I just come up into here. I'm not worrying about cutting him. Okay, all I'm doing is worrying about sticking this up into the throat area and getting mechanical compliance as I lean and drop him. His hands are still on the weapon, knocking them off. I want to control, lean in. At this point, if I need to, I can start cutting. All right. If you notice, I was holding the knife across the diagonal part of the palm of my hand in a defensive posture in that move. That's because if my fingers are broken, bloody, numb from whatever, I can still go ahead and drive forward using my palm. No finger. Again, because you can't count your fingers with that adrenaline and effort flowing through your system. So, long distance version of the same technique. I just catch the edge here. Again, riding up, dropping down, sets him up again. Same thing, same scenario. Driving him back. Taking the weapon, drop it on the knee. Now I can begin to cut if I need to. Or if I just need to control, just lean on the blade a little bit. Just lean with a little weight. Alright, there are two ways to hold the knife. Keeping it simple and consistent in close quarter combat training. That is an offensive reverse grip. It's going diagonal across the palm. It's reinforced against my arm, blade out. So that, again, I'm not doing anything with just my arm strength. Alright, in a forward position, it's very easy if I'm trying to do something, I'm going to lose this. If I'm driving in, it's going to break. From a reverse position, I've got the reinforcement of my arm and my whole body to hit him with that. Wherever I'm hitting. Onto the weapon, onto his shoulder, and then move, and if I want to cut, then cut with force. It's also concealed. Also, it gives me a primary way to hit with this knife. And we'll talk about a little more of that later when we get into offensive weaponry combat. Moving into this position is simply pivoting down, back up, down and back up. Never, as some styles teach, towards you and around, because if I do that and he's quick, I end up with the knife in me. Okay, so another rule is the weapon never turns back to yourself. Never turn the weapon into yourself. Another thing is, continue to use rubber weapons at all times, or wooden training weapons. Alright, so, close distance coming in. Close distance technique coming in. I'm in this same natural defensive posture. I've got my hands up. This is an addition if you have time. If you've got nothing else in your hands, like a weapon, you can bring your hands up around your face. I'm guarding against anything being thrown into my eyes, anything driving into this area. So as the attack comes in from close, I'm just rotating my arm circularly out, stepping up and in. I have two weapons I'm using against him now. I'm using the muzzle of his own weapon, or if I have time, I can turn this knife blade up and in. And again, I'm not pushing away, which is weak. I'm just pulling my arms into my body, pulling him down again, using two weapons at the same time on him. If I want to cut, all I need to do is 1, 2. That's all. Not big motion, just 1, 2. I've opened the subcarotid artery up. But I probably don't even want to waste time cutting. I just want to drop him down. Drive on. Alright, now we're into flexible weaponry. Sling rope, commonly carried, web belt, whatever. Again, the lunge is coming in, and what's important is to treat flexible weaponry as if it's rigid. Leave some slack as I step in. If I just step in with it rigid, resist. I can't move it. If I step in with it and snap it, I move it, especially if I'm hitting on his fingers. He's letting go right now. That's very little effort. He can't take much of that. With his force and my stepping in with no effort, the weapon's out of there. This is medium technique. I come up, I control the weapon. I can drop down, hit on the arm. I'm hitting with that knot to help me. That again drops his neck into position. lean in, hit there. Again, control with the knee, drop it on the knee, controlling the weapon, controlling the arm, on the throat. Now we're going to the same technique in close distance. I don't have a lot of time. I step and pivot in, hitting the weapon, I'm up in his face automatically to divert him. Bring this up. I can wrap if I wish, don't have to. Bring it up here, wrap it around him, pulling and crossing down here. The weapon muzzle is wrapped to his neck. All I have to do is tense a little bit. Far distance technique, I step away as he steps in. Again, I'm hitting the muzzle of the weapon with that knot, that rope knot. There's a lot of force there. I'm a little bit far away from him. I reach in and control the muzzle of the weapon so it doesn't come back on me, because I'm not inside the line of fire as I'd like to be. Things aren't always ideal in combat. I slide up and hit into the arm with a knot. That brings him forward. I can hit with my elbow or hit. In a close quarter combat situation, anything is better than nothing. If you've got a carabiner, that can double your efforts if you know how to use it correctly. Just slide it over just below your knuckles. Use it in the same way. Technique is coming in, hit the edge of the weapon or the fingers. Just slightly hitting on the fingers. I'm just applying gentle pressure. He's going down. So I'm stepping in violently, hitting there. We're starting with the far distance technique here this time. I'm up on the edge of the muscle of the weapon. I've knocked his fingers. I slide up and into the bicep, hitting into the bicep. That lowers him. I naturally raise up with the ridge part of this carabiner up, and I can drop straight down. Medium distance carabiner technique, same way. Okay, stepping in. Weapon's here, got control of the weapon. Maybe I can even stop on some of the fingers and grab on to help, but that's only going to be a temporary distraction, especially if he's fighting for his life. From here, I'm just going to lean in and bring the ridge of the carabiner up into his throat. Again, if he wants to bring the weapon to bear, you can't. My elbow and body are covering. I can take it away by pushing. I can control the body. Close-in technique is the same as before. I'm in close, I step in, rotate in with my forearm, come up. Again, I've got two weapons up in here now. I've got the muzzle of the weapon digging into his neck, the sight, whatever. I can also, if I don't have that good clear grip on that, I can turn in with the carabiner, the edge of the carabiner, digging in, dropping down, rising up, driving on. One of the more likely scenarios you will experience on the modern battlefield, especially in a counter-terrorist or hostage rescue operation, is someone trying to take your weapon. Weapon retention becomes much more important today. First thing you want to do, if you can, is move your hand off the pistol grip. So if someone does grab your weapon, is reaching up here where you're going to have a better grip, where he can't simply knock it out of your hand as we've been doing on weapon disarmament. At this point, you're going to drop back, sink back and drop the weapon down, raise it up into the outside, crossing down. At this point his grip is broken, I'm trapping his hands, and again, his neck is vulnerable. I rise the weapon up into his neck and take him down. The technique done one time at speed. Weapon retention of a drawn sidearm can be done as well by rotating up and in and then pushing the rigid edge of the weapon down as you step back, and again that exposes his neck. Same technique from the outside, dropping the weapon, coming over, the muzzle is still pointing at the enemy, and levering down. Walking back, laying on the elbow. If the opponent grabs the slide of the weapon, the muzzle, even with a good grip with two hands. Grab two hands if you can, one hand if you can, he's holding on good and tight. Sink back, ripping the weapon out of his hand, then you can lunge forward, putting the weapon in his throat. The The next most likely scenario that you're likely to face in a close quarter situation on the modern battlefield is weaponry disarmament. That is, you're POW, you're being held at gunpoint. At some point, your captor is going to have to enter your perimeter if he's transporting moving prisoners. You have your hands up, act innocent, act afraid to get him off his guard. Talk with your hands so that you can move your hands closer. When I go to move, he's going to say bang as soon as he pulls on that trigger. Hey! You'll notice I'm entering inside the line of fire. What's happening here? We'll do it again. When I move, he'll go bang. Hey! One more time. Bang! The key here is that same stance, catching the weapon's muzzle, not using fingers, just catching with the hook of the hand, stepping inside the line of fire so that if he does come back, I'm okay. Neutralize the weapon for 1 moment with the hook of the other hand. At the same time, shift up into the neck to distract him, and hit down on the weapon, reversing it, then driving back up into the neck and following him down. Same technique, done at regular speed. Hey, please, don't shoot me. I'm not going to give you any trouble. Hey. Weapon is trapped, fingers are trapped. Right knee's on the right elbow, left knee is on the right elbow, right knee is on the right thigh, trapped. Lean on the weapon, he's controlled. Same scenario to the rear. Make sure you look back first, you know where he's at. You're going to have to make contact with the weapon. Round your back, makes you look more scared. You're not going to hook in the V area of the muscles. So it's going to slide out. As I move, maybe he's pushing me forward a little bit. Turning, I'm catching the weapon in the crook of my arm, getting up into the neck area to distract him, hitting down on the weapon, knocks it out of his hands. I got control of the weapon. I could possibly even reach in here with my thumb and fire. I'm not going to waste time with that. I'm going to drive into the neck area. Head down. We're using the same movement. This time I'll turn to the inside. Stepping in, slow motion, wrapping in, catching the weapon in the hook of my elbow, not using fingers. I have control of it momentarily. Hand riding up into the throat to distract him, slapping down on the weapon. Weapon's in tight. I could slide my finger in here. If I can take the long safety off the AK with the palm of my hand, which is possible to do, I might fire from here. Probably don't want to fire because I'm a POW. All I need to do then is lunge forward with body weight. Control him. You're at pistol point. Put your hands up. Again, try and move them in talking. Hey, don't hurt me. Because you decrease the distance you have to move. Step one, step in, neutralize the weapon for a moment. Grab those fingers hard. Got pain. Come in on the trigger finger. Can't pull it. You maybe are across the slide, across the hammer. The action won't work. Or maybe one round will go off and catch some of the flesh of your hand. Regardless, you're inside the line of fire. That's 90% of the job right there. Come up, neutralize the weapon for a second, grasp. Again, stun the attacker to the neck area. Come back in, reversing the grip in. At this point, he's either going to shoot himself or I push this into his throat. Got control. Left knee on right elbow, right knee on inner left thigh. If he's still trying to fight, just drop the elbow down. Left hand from the front, same thing, step inside the weapon. Neutralize the weapon at the same time, stun the attacker, turn the weapon back in. Again, I have control of it, I can drop on the arm, in between my knees, tear the weapon away. The technique is even simpler from the back. Again, round your back, act afraid. Make sure the weapon is back there. Make sure it's not a finger or a pointer or a stick. Spin in. Up. I'm now inside the line of fire. Most of my work is done. Bend the elbow in. I'm now using my body against his wrist. Notice that as that happens, it's driving the weapon right up into his neck. At this point, he's either going to shoot himself or I just lunge forward with a hit. All right, Alex is going to go bang when I move. You don't have to be Bruce Lee or Superman moving particularly fast. All you have to be is smooth to make it work. Pivoting in to the inside this time with the left arm, done slow. Pivot inside the line of fire, raise my arm up, bring it in. The weapon naturally comes back on him at this time. I hit him in the neck to stun him, reach back, take the weapon, drive it into the throat area, take him down, knees pinning on the right bicep. In the extremely unlikely event that you're being held at knife point, if it's the same knife position as the pistol or the rifle, use the same technique. They'll probably be closer because they want to have contact with you for that purpose. In that case, get your hands up, pivot in. Again, that's just smooth, not particularly fast. Slow motion, what's happening there is I'm hitting with my forearms, not even using my fingers, and guiding the blade back in to his throat area. Again, not trying to cut, just mechanical compliance, taking Alex down. As a counter to interdiction, or if you're being held as hostage from behind, again, a knife blade will probably be close. First thing you want to do is act scared, round your back because you're spreading them out, raise your shoulders. You're raising his shoulder carriage a little bit. Act afraid, don't act aggressive. You'll scare him, make him more wary. Drop the chin. That traps, he can't cut, but he can, if he keeps pulling, he will be able to. Raise the right arm behind his elbow, grab your left ear. He cannot cut now, cut. You can't. Step around in the same movement that you've already learned. The weapon is close to his body. Probably going to be below his body armor at this point. Drive in with body. The same move, done to speed. Hey, listen. It may be that your enemy is attacking you with an edged weapon. In that case, use the same stance as before. However, instead of bringing your arms up so high, just drop them to a medium distance where they can move up or down depending on your need. As he steps in with a quick thrust, you step in. I'm hitting his forearm with my elbow into his bicep. At this time, my shoulder's also running into him. My head may be hitting his. I'm using his momentum against him. At this time, I'm still not trying to use a lot of fingers, but I am going to take the knife. I'm going to slide this forearm down and then just raise it up and lower the other one. Take him down. I've got the right arm locked out here across my knee. I've got the right knee trapped with plenty of pain. If he's coming with a wide slash, it's even easier. A wide outside slash, same technique, even easier. Stepping in there, sliding underneath, locking the hands, taking back, step on the bicep. Slash, he's coming in, step in again. This may break his elbow here anyway. Drop this down, just lean forward. All by leaning forward, I'm going to break his arm over my knee. And take the knife away, I got my knee on his knee, take him down. Got control. An overhead cut downward as he comes in. I swiftly step in again, same way, out of the way, bending my arm, just as if we were bending, we had both arms, except one arm is up here at this time. The other one's going to raise up. It'll hit him as it's coming up. I don't do a typical cut out the X block, it's weak, and I'm staying right underneath it, and the knife can come through, and it has come through in contact. So I've stepped in, I'm hitting up here, I let this arm drop underneath, tighten this arm, tighten again. I've got the right elbow locked out again. You can kneel underneath it, apply pressure to the neck. A groin thrust, same technique, very powerful. Stepping away, if you can see, he's really flinching. All I'm doing is dropping my arm with my body weight. That's what's hitting him. That's almost going to finish him there. I bring my other arm up, turn the knife in, up to his throat. Again, I got control. Only now are we getting into unarmed, offensive, close quarter combat. It'll be extremely rare when you'd ever want to apply something like this. But all you're going to do is step forward with one of your feet. If he does start to take the initiative, you have no way to protect yourself. Cross the arms, raise the leg, lean forward with body weight. So that if he goes to step in on me, I'm not sure what's happening. Leaning in, dropping through. If he's hitting me with his weapon, a club, a knife, I'm protecting the most essential parts of my body. There's only one offensive close quarter combat method that you need to know. Stepping into the fighting position, strong side forward if you're in close, weak side forward if you're far back. As you step forward, knocking the muzzle of the weapon away if it's there. If it's not, you don't have to worry about it. Coming up, kicking in to the knee. That's one. Step in, naturally step in with your momentum now, getting into the throat area. Two. Pivoting in back onto the same knee if he's still up with the left knee and the left elbow getting back into the neck. At this point, if he's still there, coming in close, and I'm starting to rotate his head into a grappling neck break at this point, dropping straight down. Again, the technique done to speed. 1, 2, 3. Notice the weapon is controlled, the muzzle going past. I've got it trapped with my weapon, with my body. If you've had any fighting experience at all, whether combat or street fighting or barroom brawling, you know that what happens in most fights is there's 1 or 2 punches thrown and the guy's close into grappling mode. So we're going to cover now escapes from grappling. Front grab. Don't try the karate move of trying to lift this guy's arms up. It takes a lot of power, what they call kime, snap, involved. Alright, Alex is going to grab my throat very tightly here until I can't talk. Again, I did the same move, stepping back and out, raising my arm up. From here, elbow comes back, controlling him again. Same move done slow. Grab comes in, I step back, raise the arm, twisting. At this point I'm breaking his balance because I've stepped back and he's trying to hold on to me. As the balance breaks, I leave my elbow in his throat. I've also got my knee on the inside of his left thigh. The same move from the back is the same move. Pivot in, raise your arm up, come underneath. I've got both of his arms. I bring them up, walk back, nail it on the arm. Tight grappling, hold from behind. You have a couple choices here. First thing you want to do is try and drop your weight and start expanding your shoulders out. That'll solve most of them. Grab a little finger, turn it in, turn it out, come behind, come down on the knee. I can come on the elbow, roll forward, break his arm. Variation of this technique, I'm in here close. I just start knocking like a door on his fingers. If I don't have the room to do this knocking motion, I just apply pressure over top, and again, he starts to release, I shrug my shoulders, I step out. If I just hold on to him, I'm going to end up controlling his limbs and kneeling on the limbs. If he's grabbing me low, I can't get my arms up, I can't do any shrugging because he's down so low. Step to the ankle, the right ankle, and bend it out. Alright, kick. Can't take too much. A couple kicks will drop you down. You can go ahead and drop the ankle. If he's lifted you up so far that you can't kick, reach back in here, grab a pinch of flesh, twist. That'll loosen him enough to get you to the ground. You can apply an ankle, a kick, start working your way out, grabbing some fingers, twisting out, taking the elbow and a knee down. If your opponent goes to grab you and strike you, you want to get out of there as he comes in to punch, simply kick your right leg out and sit out. You can also kick through this leg, breaking it if he's stepping in. His body energy is crossed here. I can grab a thumb, control, I'm up on the knee. This is the same technique you use to evade an ambush, where you bring your weapon up to fire, sit out, pop the quick release, bring it around. Grabs to the front are the same as grabs to the rear. Again, stepping onto the ankle, dropping the knee, stepping the knee even behind. Pain compliance. One ground fighting technique to be aware of, as your opponent's coming in, just hit that leg. You can throw something into space. Kneeling on the ankle and on the knee, you got pain compliance. Same thing can be done with the foot pointed the other way. Opponent's coming in, distraction of the face, this way. Kicking down on that with the heel of your jungle boot. Pulse, slide 1 foot behind here, in front, pull and push. Defense against the throw. If you'll notice, I haven't taught any of the throws that you'll commonly learn in Ranger School. That's because you're throwing an opponent away from you, where he can pick up a rock, a weapon, alert his buddies, whatever. The object of close quarter combat is to drop him in place quietly where you can control him. But if your opponent does go to throw you, just drop your weight, sink, my knee's on his knee, push forward on the hips. Just drop your hips below his. This is a good way to fight with a knife as well. Notice the knife is an offensive back grip. And it may be that you need to fight offensively with a knife. He's expended his ammunition. We're closing with each other. As I step forward, I'm knocking the weapon out of the way, coming up, hitting him with the butt of the weapon, going past, and at this time, dropping him down. Controlling the weapon, controlling the limbs. But this technique is, I'm taking the offensive. I'm not waiting to react to his movement at this time. Done at speed, the technique would look at it like this. There are very few instances when you would need to throw your knife or bayonet in a combat situation. Almost always you'll prefer to close with your opponent and deal with him that way. But if he's going to fire at you from a distance and you see him, you want to throw it just to distract him. There's a very simple technique for this. I'm only going to show 2 versions. They're both from the same defensive stance. As Alex brings his weapon up to bear, I'm stepping in, pivoting. So I'm out of the line of fire. I'm just from this position here where I've brought my hand up to protect me in that defensive. I'm positioned before. I'm just pointing the weapon right at his throat. Technique done to speed looks like this. That gives me the moment of distraction. He's flinched. I can move in, hit a knee, hit an arm, take him down. The low version of the same technique is, as Alex brings his weapon to bear, I step in, raising up and pointing the knife in. Done to speed, it'll look like this. Set that blade so you can see the force and the weight of the weapon. What would happen would be, if Alex was still here, he's not going to be, but as I just step in, doesn't take much. The low throw, stepping in. If the distance is even greater between you and the enemy, what you're going to have to do is bring the weapon around for a half turn. Grasp it by the blade. You can either flip this, or if you already have an offensive reverse grip, slide it up into this position. You see the opponent, as he comes up, you throw, point, drop low, step in, go into an interdiction mode. Same technique if Alex was going to stand there, but he's not. He moves out of the way. I have a forward grip, I flip. I have the weapon. The more preferable technique, I have the bayonet reversed. I let it slide up so it really never leaves my grasp. talking through the counter-ambush technique that you just witnessed. As the point man comes under fire, he immediately brings weapon to shoulder to return fire. As he kicks out with his right leg and sits out straight down, his right gluteus maximus is going to protect him. Also, his rucksack is going to protect him. He's returning fire, and he's immediately dropped out of the line of the grazing fire. If there's any rolling in the terrain, he may have actually gotten some cover. Of course, the men off to his right and left are following his movement as well. Keeping his hand on the pistol grip, he reaches in with his left hand to grab the quick release of the rucksack, violently pulling it away, shrugs it off his left shoulder, and rolls around, continuing that natural body motion, dropping behind the rucksack low, removing his hand from the other rucksack strap so he's free back behind his ruck. He just got some cover. And he's just got some concealment rather, and perhaps some cover. To move then, he's going to do a combat roll to the other side of his rucksack. Stand up and move out. Probably the best improvised weaponry for silent interdiction of a sentry is a suppressed pistol. Therefore, if you screw something up, you can put it around through him when you're close. The scenario sequence will show you the movements getting up to this point. When you do get up to this point, however, you're going to launch, bringing a knee close to his to start to bend him down to your height, hit your chest into him so you're bowing him back, opening him up. One hand is coming over his to keep him from yelling. Go ahead and yell. Turning that head towards the left to expose that esophageal cartilage and carotid artery. The pistol comes in, the hammer into this area here. You can reinforce with the forearm and pushing straight down while you keep a tight grip in here. You're going to do a neck break as you're going down. I've also dropped him on my leg to slow him down, keep him quiet. Always at this point, it's good to make sure he's down and out. Take whatever object you're using, get on it. Same technique done to speed. Same approach, knee to knee, chest to back, bending him back, coming up with the left hand, muffling the sound, turning it to the left. If it's a knife, blades turning outwards, dropping in here, you will get some hissing as the vocalizations start coming through the slit you've opened, tearing back as you pull down across the carotid artery. Finishing up. Butt stroking upwards is very easy. It doesn't take much to separate the spinal cord from the skull there. All you have to do is lean in with weight, lean in with body weight. If he's still up at that point, raise this end, driving him straight down, where with body weight, you'll stroke him again. Again, a weapon is trapped underneath. If you must use an M16 with no ammunition or a stick, coming up the same way, knee in there, let the weapon come up around, the sight's in a great place to hit. Inside the elbow, driving back, and as you come down, neck interdiction again. Again, I'm letting him down on my body so that I can move and cover the sound of his fall. The weapon would have been here. I want to control his weapon. He's going to move, knock his fingers off. No problem. Using flexible weaponry for silent sentry interdiction, such as a sling rope or a web belt. Wrap it at least once so you're not going to lose it when he starts fighting for his life. Coming up, same way, except this time the hands have to be back because you already got your grip established. You're keeping your hands back so he's not going to see you with peripheral vision initially. So you'd be coming up this way, hitting the knee. He's bending back into me that way. Coming down. As soon as you get to here, you're going to come straight back, cross. If you're crossing tight here, and I'm just going to cross a little bit, you can see what it's doing to me. At this time, don't even try and turn around, anything like that. Just drop straight down. He's still not broken yet. Jerk from this way. Should break his neck. Again, finish up, take the knot, get it in. Unarmed interdiction, you still have one weapon even if you don't have your weapon or any improvised weaponry, that's his weapon. Come in the same way, arms back, knee hit, chest into back, come up, slam his weapon into him. Again, you've got all these nice sights and protuberances off that weapon to knock, dropping him back, turn the weapon in. Great unarmed interdiction, I've got nothing. I have to do it barehanded. The easiest way to do it is, again, knee coming up, starting to bend him back, chest into back, left hand sliding in here to silence him. Right hand on the left side of his head, begin to twist at a diagonal up. If I just twist straight up to the side, tighten up. He can resist. If I twist diagonally, he has to go. And a violent twisting motion and backwards, grasping, break again here. Make sure. You don't have anything to hit with, elbow. All these interdictions can be performed to the front as a part of offensive unarmed close quarter combat. For example, I'm not going to go through them because I've already shown them, but for example, the unarmed, I have my hands up, I step in, striking to the throat, twisting off, recovering sound now. If he does want to yell for his buddies, the weapon is trapped against my body. He may be able to fire, he's probably not going to have time because as I twist, I'm taking it down, and again. A variation of this extra hit we're putting on to make sure that that guy doesn't get up later and kill you can be done with a heel stomp straight into the throat. Or if I don't have a lot of room for whatever reason, I can drop my knee onto his throat. If he's on his back, same thing applies. All you have to do is take the edge of your boot. You see he's tapping out already. Walk over with body weight. If for some reason you don't have a lot of room to do that, again, just dropping with me with body weight. In the sentry interdiction scenario that you just saw, there were several elements I want to go over. First, we had a cover man standing off, ideally with a suppressed weapon, to back up the interdictor if need be. Secondly, you're going to move forward using cover and concealment, dropping low into a duck walk as you get closer. I've still got terrain up to here. Then I'm going to go on all fours. I've still got terrain up to here. As I get closer into open brush, as I am now, I'm going to drop into a low crawl where my heels are flat, knife is back in offensive fighting position. I'm very low and parallel to the ground. I've almost lost me. What I'm going to do is triangle my forearms in, and I'm looking sideways, not raising my head vertically. Not raising my heels vertically. I look slowly and smoothly with the movement of the wind on the grasses and vegetation if possible. If it's night, I'm looking for booby traps, I'm feeling out to here. Coming back in. Bring my arms in, raise myself up on my lower legs and my lower arm, scoot forward and drop my whole body down at the same time, crushing and muffling any sound of any vegetation. Scoot my feet forward, bring them down slowly and straight. Again, reaching out, feeling for any tripwires, booby traps, very loud vegetation, coming back in. Bringing the weight again on my lower forearms and lower legs, raising body up, inching forward again. Feet come forward, feel out. This becomes a very smooth sequence. The basic rule is 1 movement per minute. And it's not a jerky motion. It's a slow, steady motion, moving in time with the sentry's motion or the movement of the wind or water, transportation, weather, whatever can help you. Do not focus on the sentry. Just as if you're sitting in a car at a stoplight, if you look across the next car, the person will soon sense your intention. Keep your gaze directed down, use your peripheral vision. Same thing because you're going to be doing it at night. So you're going to be using the visual purple of your rod to see better out of the corner of your eyes, not focusing on the sentry. You want to get to him right outside his defensive perimeter. Just as we talked about earlier, so at this point, you're going to slowly rise up, keeping your body bunched lowly, like you saw on the scenario. Bring your arms back. You're going to make one leap in. I can bend on that knee. My hands are still back, so they're not entering the periphery of his vision. I'm hitting him with my knee, my chest around him out. His hand slaps in here. I don't start to take him back, straight back. I twist off this way. The other hand comes in here, dropping straight in. This will silence him. If he tries to yell with just a hand, try and yell. If he tries to yell with just a knife. And at this point, I've reversed the blade in, so I'm pulling in instead of pushing away, which is the strong method again. And I twist and cut at the same time, dropping my body weight. Direct the knife back up, straight down. I'm letting him drop. What I would do is keep my body underneath him slowly, and again, finishing off. Thanks for watching. In conclusion, remember, your fundamental weapon is body, and your ultimate mind.